So what is the difference between a Ren Faire cast member and a Ren Faire entertainer? G'day, it's Sprout here in my human disguise, and today I wanted to talk about what the differences are between a Ren Faire cast member and entertainer, because there seems to be quite a lot of misconceptions, especially with people who are new to the Ren Faire industry or patrons, and I totally understand. I mean, I was there. I was confused about what it really meant to be a cast member and an entertainer. I didn't know the difference at first, and it's not really something that's advertised as something that's different, but there is a very clear difference between the two. And before I really get into this, I also want to explain that every Renaissance festival is different. There are very few festivals that are connected with other festivals. Now granted, most festivals work a certain way, but just keep this in mind that there may be some festivals out there who do things differently. I have heard from some festivals that there really isn't much of a difference between their cast and their entertainment. It's pretty much just one thing. But I think that is a more rare scenario. So this is the most common differences in my personal experience. So let's talk about the fundamental differences between cast and entertainment. So what is a Ren Faire's cast? Like, what is it objectively? A Ren Faire cast is a group of people, performers, who are casted by the festival. These are people who generally the entertainment director chooses the characters of the cast members. Now granted, most cast allows their cast members to develop their characters on their own and kind of, make their own choices when it comes to character development, but at the end of the day, the cast director, entertainment director, whoever's in charge of them, right, they have the final say in what your character is. So you audition for a cast, usually, you make it into cast, and then once you've already made it into cast, they decide what your character will be. They will have the final say at least. Whereas an entertainer is somebody who comes from outside. They have their characters already, and they are performing for the festival as an independent contractor, which cast is technically independent contract work also, but in an entertainment scenario, the festival is the clients of the entertainer. So it's very common for you to see entertainers who have the same act, have the same show, or very similar shows, and they are traveling from festival to festival to festival to festival all year round with the same show. Whereas a lot of cast members, they are characters who are built for that festival. So in the most extreme cases of that would be like, Queen Elizabeth, or, a major monarch or major figure in history, like Shakespeare, for example. Now we do have some entertainer Shakespeare's, that's beside the point. Their character and the way they're performed is made for that particular festival. That is the absolute basic fundamental difference. But there's a lot of other differences that kind of vary from festival to festival, but a lot of these differences are very common, so let's talk about it. So for one, a cast member usually auditions. They go to audition to become a cast member, whereas an entertainer usually either sends in an email, like with a digital promo kit, or they may send in a physical promo kit, which is just like a binder with basically a performer's resume inside. But in 2025, with the technology that we have today, most festivals everything's done by, electronic digital promo kits, so usually email. With cast members, usually there is a flat pay rate. Now sometimes they will allow you to do certain jobs or play certain figureheads, like a queen, for example, that can allow you to get paid more. But it's usually kind of a flat, set in stone, like the creative director, cast director, entertainment director, etc., etc. That person determines the pay for everybody, and it's usually the same pay year after year after year with different people. It's the same pay, usually. With entertainers, the entertainer sets the pay. Now, in Ren Faire situations, a lot of the times it is a negotiation process. So the entertainer might be like, hey, I want to do your festival for $750 a day. And then the entertainment director's like, well, we can't do $750, but can you do $650? And the entertainer's like, well, yeah, but only if you provide like a hotel room or, whatever. those negotiations don't really happen with cast. It's pretty much just like a set in stone, like this is how we do things. With entertainment, every entertainer is different. Every entertainer gets paid different, they have different accommodations, they may camp, they might go home, they might have a hotel room, they might stay for the entire run, they might go home during the week. It's all very different, which can be very confusing for a newer entertainer, as myself was just a few years ago. But these entertainers usually have their own personal pay rates that are pretty much the same for every festival. They may raise their prices for, like, you know, travel fees and stuff, but for the most part, they're providing their own services at every different festival that they go to. Whereas as a caste system, every festival kind of has their own little caste system that they have. So different festivals around the country have different pay, they have different rehearsal times, which I'll get to in a minute, they have different like costume requirements, but everything that happens at one festival, their caste is like, that's the way it's done. Now for rehearsals, caste usually has rehearsals that can last at any point. I mean, sometimes they last for 2 months, sometimes they last for 4 months, sometimes they last for only like a few weeks. It just depends on the festival, but entertainers don't have rehearsals for Renaissance festivals. Now they may have their own personal rehearsals, right? But the festival itself does not host rehearsals for their entertainers. Now that doesn't include like coming in on Saturday morning or Friday night and doing like a sound check. You know, a lot of festivals may require a sound check, but other than that, it's not like a full rehearsal process. So now let's talk about what the purposes are, the differences and the purposes of most casts and most entertainment. So most cast, the purpose of a festival's cast is usually to be the ambiance background NPC characters. Now granted, a lot of cast members are taught in improv and you can go talk to them and have a good time with them, but there's usually not a lot of strict requirements for that. So sometimes cast members, what they really do is they tell you like where the bathrooms are, or they can point certain things on a map. And they may have little shows here and there. Some festivals have stricter like stage show requirements for cast and some do not, but the cast members usually tell some sort of story that's going on within the festival, and so they may have like a little show that's like in the streets where they're, you know, talking about whatever story is going on in the village. Like the queen is here visiting us today and she's looking for a new jester for her court because she doesn't like the old one, or whatever, you know, whatever reason they have for the festival going on that day. And then your entertainment is usually your big entertainment, right? This is the entertainment that people like flock to in hundreds or thousands to go see, you know, somebody famous on a stage kind of thing. So people usually go to a Renaissance festival for their entertainers. But what makes a festival feel alive is their cast members. So for the cast members create that sort of like immersive LARP experience, right? And then your entertainment is like your big actual shows. Now, because of all of these things, with cast is usually like mostly local people, they don't usually have a lot of strict requirements for performing. They get free training. Usually with the rehearsal period is also usually like improv training as well. And they're also not individually bringing in hundreds or thousands of patrons. You know, a festival might have an amazing cast, right? But it's rare that you have like one cast member who's really bringing people in through the gates, right? They're, you know, patrons are flocking just to see this one person, right? That's kind of a rare situation for cast. And if there is a cast member like that, they should probably upgrade to being an entertainer anyway. So because of all of those things, cast is usually volunteer. They may be paid in some sort of compensation, but it's usually very low. I would say the average cast pay in American Ren Fairs is about $50 a day. Some Ren Fairs pay their cast absolutely nothing. The highest that I've seen so far is $150 a day. Meanwhile, for entertainers, usually, in most cases, $150 a day is like the absolute lowest that entertainer should be going for. And some of the bigger name entertainers are getting paid like $1,000 a day per person, per performer. So in most cases, your cast members are going to be your hobbyists and your entertainers are going to be your paid professionals. Now granted, that doesn't mean that there aren't some really amazing cast members out there. Sometimes they just, they don't have either the time or the interest in doing entertainment work. But naturally, with being paid, you know, $50 a day or whatever, most professional performers or people who want to be a professional performer aren't gonna stick around for that, right? So naturally, it is more of a hobbyist thing or a beginner performer thing. Also, another thing to note is that most cast members are not allowed to hat pass or collect tips, whereas most entertainers do collect tips. Now, this doesn't mean that as a patron you can't tip a cast member. There's going to be a lot of cast members who would love a tip. They just can't have like a tip sign. In rare cases, they'll be told that they have to refuse a tip. I don't agree with that at all. Like I have very strong feelings against that. I think a cast member, if they are handed money as a tip, then they should be at least allowed to take it. But that's one of those things that, like, if you want to be paid to do this, then you should upgrade to be an entertainer, because that's what I did. I started out, Sprout was a cast member. I started Sprout as a cast member. And on my 3rd year, I did both entertainment and cast as Sprout, 2 different festivals. And then by my 4th year, I was full entertainer as Sprout. So I took the same character in the same act, and I just upgraded it to entertainer. Most festivals, at least the good ones, are gonna allow you to do that, right? They're going to encourage you to do that because they want great entertainers. They want great entertainment, whether it's cast or entertainer at their festival. Now, granted, there may be some individual Renaissance Festival managements who are really weird about that, but I don't think I really need to go into that. That's something that I've heard rumors of, but I've never experienced it personally. I've never heard of that in any of the festivals that I have worked for. But you know, there's good and bad festivals everywhere, so I mean. So anyway, that's what my thoughts are. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on the differences between a cast member and entertainer. And if you like the video, please feel free to like and subscribe or follow. And also let me know if you want to see even more out of character, out of Sprout content. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you in the next video.